Our next speaker this evening is Tom Glennon. Tom is going to be doing a humorous speech for us. Tom likes to do humorous speeches with a serious slant. The name of his speech is the DGB Basics. Mr. Tom Glennon.
All you in the TV audience, come back with me to the 60s, when the Green Bay Packers were #1 football team, and Vince Lombardi was the king of coaches. But this particular day, the Green Bay Packers played like chumps instead of champs, and Vince Lombardi wasn't too happy. Come with me into the locker room, and we'll see what Vince is saying to his team. Gentlemen, we must get back to the basics. This is a football. And from the back of the room, we hear the left end McGee say, "Not so fast, coach, not so fast." You know, it's good, whether you're #1 or not, to get back to the basics, as in life, as in football. I'd like to touch on the DGB basics. The D basic, come with me to Kennedy Airport in New York City. And my niece, who is an airline hostess for TWA, relates this story. You come and go out the TWA plane, and you see a little boy there about this high, and he's running up and down, he's bunking into the seats, he's climbing over them, he's bunking into people. And the airline hostess looks over, looks away, and she can't believe what she says, what she sees. The man has picked up this boy and placed him in the overhead compartment and just closed it down. And then he sits back on his seat, and the airline hostess goes over there and says, "Sir?" And he says, "Yes." She says, "You'll have to take your boy out of there. We're going to take off." And he says, "Why?" Well, that man was just practicing discipline, which is so important in life as on the football field. When the football players get a little wild, they're penalized. Discipline, the first basic. The next basic, we can stay right here in New York, and we're going to Dan's supermarket, where as a young boy, I used to work in the grocery department. And one day, I was working there in that grocery department, and I was putting the oranges away, and this little girl come walking up the aisle, you know, with the big eyes and a nice smile. And I said to myself, when I get married, I want to have a child like that. And I just wanted to give her something. So I had the orange, and I said, "Here." And she took it. And she just looked at me, and she looked at the orange. And her mother wasn't back when and said, "What do you say, Colleen?" But she just looked at me, and she stared. It was sort of getting embarrassing. And she looked at me, and then she thrust the orange out, and she said, "Peel it." Now, after that, I didn't want her as a child. I didn't feel so close to her because she didn't have gratitude. And gratitude, as in life, as in football, if the quarterback doesn't have gratitude for his line or for the blockers, then you don't have that esprit de corps. There's dissension in the ranks. And the football team doesn't play as well as it should. Now, for the last basic, we'll come back to Medford, Oregon. We'll go to a Toastmaster meeting. And at the meeting, you'll see a timer. If we're not done in time, we're disqualified. And same in life. It's so important to have a time frame set up in various things. Now, as in football, if the quarterback doesn't call his play in time, he is going to be penalized. You know, and this is brevity. This is the third basic. The master of brevity was Abraham Lincoln. In his Gettysburg Address, 268 words, about a little over 2 minutes. You know, the keynote speaker that day was Edward Everett. Nobody remembers him. He took 2 hours. And Edward Everett said to Abraham Lincoln, he said, "You hit the center of the occasion better in 2 minutes than I did in 2 hours." You know, I was born in 1926. There was another president then. He was Calvin Coolidge. And he was noted for his brevity. And he said, one time coming back from church, his wife was sick, and the wife said, Cal, what did the preacher talk about? And he said, sin. And his wife said, well, what did he say about it? He was against it, Cal said. DGB, discipline, gratitude, and brevity. Whether you're number one or not, you always should get back to the basics. When I want to remember them, I think of Vince Lombardi and This Is a Football. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tom. Come on in. I'll ask you some questions here. DGB, what made you decide to write that speech?
Because I entered the contest, and I had no idea what I was going to talk about, but I like to sort of jump in the water first, because then you have to swim. And then I do a lot of reading, and it just, little by little, it just come about.
What was the reason why you joined Toastmasters to become a public speaker?
Actually, to keep my mind active. I keep my body active playing tennis, lifting weights, and I got 8 children and 20 grandchildren. That keeps me active. But actually, to keep the mind active, so important.
Can you describe to us the best time you've ever had as a public speaker?
The best time I ever had as a public speaker was when I made a speech about a leprechaun.
About a leprechaun?
In Albuquerque. In fact, I have his picture here. If we want to see the leprechaun, hold there, football. Pick up your hat, Tom. This is the leprechaun. This is Clancy. And actually, he's a live leprechaun. This is just a replica of him. I used to work in the library in Albuquerque, and he used to leave footprints all over the library the night before St. Patrick's Day. All the little kids used to come around, follow them. They used to be over the boss's desk into the head and stuff. And this is Clancy. And I made a speech. I won a humor speech contest speaking about Clancy.
Are you going to be entering the humor speech contest this year?
I believe so, yes, because, as I say, it's nice to jump into the water, and then you have to do it. And it's much easier, I think, to make a talk than to be a judge.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dale.